a hopeless romantic, returns home to help with her family's Christmas carnival, not expecting to find her soulmate there. In the opening scene, we see the beautiful and charming Mona waiting for her date, who happens to be running late. He finally shows up and apologizes, claiming that he has a lot of work on his hands. Mona moves past it, and given that their first date had been amazing, she gives him an offer that she doesn't expect him to turn down. However, she assures him that it'll be fine if he does. Letting him know all about her parents' Christmas carnival, she invites him to come with her since she feels like they already have a strong connection. The guy begins to feel awkward but tells her what he initially planned. Feeling guilty, he lets her know that he plans on fixing things with his wife. Shocked, Mona asks him to pause for a minute because she didn't realize he had a wife. Trying to justify himself, he informs her that his ex-wife is in question and even pretends like he had already told her. Mona stays quiet, which only makes the situation even more uncomfortable. Not knowing what to say next, he wishes her a Merry Christmas before he runs off the restaurant. She woke up feeling horrible the next morning, but luckily her best friend had spent the night, making her feel somewhat better. Mona beats herself for inviting him to spend Christmas with her, when they don't even know each other. But her bestie assures her that it's not her fault. However, she does remind her that she had warned her about dating apps, but Mona seems to be desperate. Her biggest problem is showing up to the Christmas carnival without a special someone. Christmas time is all about family, and she feels bad about not having one, not to mention the pressure her family puts on her for showing up single to the carnival every year. Trying to cheer her up, her friend reminds her of the successful career she has as an influencer. Being an ambassador and running her own business had taken up her time to find a husband, and that is totally fine. Mona sighs. She wishes that she had a love story like her mother and sister, filled with love and harmony. However, she still has hope as the Christmas carnival is a supposed place where love can be found. Little does she know, she's about to meet hers. However, although she has bad luck with men, she still believes in the carnival fairy tale. A kiss under the mistletoe promises everlasting love. Her best friend chuckles, finding it hard to believe in such a story. Mona's phone rings, and she sees that it's her mother. She seems nervous on the phone, so Mona asks if everything is all right. Her sister's husband, who is a Marine, won't be coming for Christmas, and she seems to be very upset. Feeling bad, Mona assures her that she'll be arriving the following day. Knowing that she'll be the only one without a partner, Mona lets her mother know that she won't be showing up at the dance. Her mother doesn't seem to like her answer, but not having the energy to explain herself, she agrees to go in the end. Her mother's friend will be joining the carnival, and she happens to have a son. Excitedly, Mona's mother tries to set her up with him, but Mona begs her not to do so. Regardless, her mother sends her a photo, and to put it in kind words, the guy seems to be odd-looking. Her best friend finds it funny, but it seems that Mona's had enough of her mother's shenanigans. Although it seems like everything is fine over the phone, we see that Mona's mother is concerned. She tells her father that Mona will be coming the following day, but also mentions the bad news they have for her. Her father seems concerned, so he makes her promise that they won't tell their daughters the bad news before Christmas. In the morning, we see Mona arrive in her town, and while walking the streets, she sees her ex-high school boyfriend Fletcher come out of a shop. Seeing that he's glowed up, she ends her call with her friend Shay, only so she can talk to him. He recognizes her right away, and he also seems to be excited to see her. They get to talking, and Mona finds out that he's actually moved back into town. He informs her that he'll be at the carnival with the kids, making her think that he's talking about his own. Luckily, he assures her that he's not married, but points out that he doesn't see a ring on her either. Nodding her head, she confirms his assumption, making it seem like they have a chance. They catch up shortly, and given that they don't have anything else to talk about, Mona tries to get on her way, but he stops her. He knows that they haven't seen each other in such a long time, but suggests they go out in the evening. Mona smiles, liking the thought of rekindling with him, so she agrees. They go their own ways, but can't seem to stop catching each other's glances. Mona finally arrives home, and as soon as she steps out of the car, she gets attacked with her sister's hugs. Erin is so happy to see her sister back, and she can't wait for them to catch up. It's the morning of the carnival, so Mona wonders why she isn't there. Erin explains that a news reporter from a magazine will be arriving shortly to do a story on their hometown. Rightfully so, he'll be staying at their guest house, and she couldn't be more excited to meet him. The door opens wide and her parents come running from it to greet their daughter. Mona is also happy to see them, but she keeps her cool. Always on a mission to set her up with a cute guy, her mother starts telling her all about their new mailman. Luckily, her father stops her and invites them all to come inside. Erin's young ones seem to be missing their father greatly, but he tries his best to bring the Christmas spirit through the video call. Telling the boys he loves them, he asks for Erin on the phone. Mona lets them talk in private and gets the boys to step out as she promises them that there's something in the trunk for them. Her phone rings all of a sudden, and as she reads the text, she can't seem to stop smiling. It's Fletcher, and he is inviting her on a date. Responding quickly, she locks her phone to focus on her sister. Erin ends the call devastated, but luckily she has her sister to comfort her. The news reporter Des arrives shortly, and while trying to make a good impression, he ends up getting on Mona's nerves. As he enters the room, he introduces himself normally, but he hands Mona a business card that surprises her. In the age of the internet, she explains that business cards are rare, and he agrees. However, the whole reason behind the cards is that he believes that social media is fake. It vividly sets Mona off, so she lets him know that she works online, but remains cool. To ease the tension, Erin asks where he's from, and he happens to be from New York. Mona is living in New York, so Erin tries to get her talking. However, the conversation falls flat, so Des decides to settle into his room. As he leaves, Mona tries to leave as well, but Erin stops her. As expected, she asks where Mona is going, and Mona doesn't seem to have a problem telling her. On the date, they seem to be having a great time as they discuss why they're single. Mona tells him all about the date from a couple of days ago, and he jokingly apologizes on behalf of all men. Intrigued, she asks why he's single, and he claims that it's hard for him to find a suitable woman. Mona struggles to believe that, but he explains that he wants some kind of excitement that can't be found in their hometown. Keeping it optimistic, she suggests dating apps, but he claims that they're not his cup of tea. While he seems to be taking his single stage lightheartedly, Mona is convinced that she will remain single for the rest of her life. Taking the chance to flirt, he lets her know that he would love to make sure that doesn't happen, which makes her giggle. After the date, the two sisters catch up, and Mona lets her sister know that she has gone on a date with Fletches. Erin can't believe that it's her ex who she went on a date with, but doesn't seem to be against it. Mona gets ready to go to the carnival, knowing that she won't hear the end of it if she doesn't show up. But before she leaves, Erin asks her to pick up Des. She smirks devilishly, but Mona warns her not to play any games because she knows what she's trying to do. Regardless, Mona picks up Des and they end up enjoying a walk around town. They make small talk, trying to get to know each other, like where they're from and what they do. Des mentions that he's grown up all over the world because his father works in the military, saving humanity. Jokingly, Mona mentions that her dad milks cows, but he thinks that his job is important as well because he loves eating cereal. Curious, he asks what she does, and she explains her job as a social media ambassador. He doesn't seem too impressed, and tells her that while her job seems interesting, it's not of great importance. Taken aback, she stops, and he quickly realizes that he's offended her. However, she doesn't keep quiet and calls him out for what he's doing. She also doesn't think it's that important to write an article about Christmas in a town with a small population. He doesn't really know what to say, so she decides to wait for him in the car. The following morning, Mona decides to help around at the carnival a bit early, so she has time to see Fletcher. While meeting her parents at the booth, she can't seem to take her face off the phone as she continues texting Fletcher. Her mother notices and asks her to pay attention, before sending her to the reindeer race booth. While working the booth, she gets approached by Des, the last person she wants to see. He asks whether she and his sister have been working the carnival since they were little, so Mona asks if he's interviewing her. He confirms, so in order to get over it quickly, she tells him about the history of the carnival. It was first owned by her great-grandfather and was passed generations down the line. He lets her know that she's lucky to be a part of a family with such traditions. But Mona doesn't seem to have forgotten his comment the previous night, so she takes it the wrong way. Again, he tries explaining himself, but she doesn't give him the time of day. Although she's excited for the second date with Fletcher, she admits to not feeling her best. Concerned, he asks why, and she lets him know that her sister is mad at her for not helping around at the carnival. To make her feel better, he suggests both of them help out at the carnival, as it doesn't matter where they are, but that they're together. At the carnival, they stand at the booth while blowing up balloons. Thanking him for helping her, she assures him that they will be finished in no time. Being at the carnival reminds him of his childhood, so he lets her know that he doesn't mind staying longer. Curious, she asks why he moved back, and he claims that he wanted to be close to his family. Surprisingly, he reveals that he looked for her when he came back. She smiles, and he asks whether she remembers their first Christmas together. That night, he had planned to ask her to be his girlfriend, but admits to having stopped calling shortly after, because his father wanted him to focus on school. Mona feels relieved, as she believes that he lost interest in her. After so many years, he apologizes for doing her like that, but is glad that they've rekindled now. Leaning in, he tries to kiss her, but they get interrupted by her father. In the evening, we see the family gathered up for dinner. After saying a prayer, They dig in, but Mona takes her time making a video of the food in front of her. Des rolls his eyes and she seems to catch him. To cheer up the boys, Des suggests they make a video for their father, and that is exactly what they do after dinner. A large thud can be heard in the kitchen, so everyone rushes to see if their father is okay. He claims to be fine, but Des notices that it's a serious matter. So he takes the boys upstairs, letting them discuss the issue in private. Mona's mother decides to come clean, but her father begs her not to. Regardless, she lets their daughters know that they're getting too old to run the carnival. Their father's back pain is getting worse, and it's time they close the chapter and move on to some other things. Given that it's been kept in the family for so long, they expect that one of their daughters will take over. Erin and Mona look at each other, and Erin lets them know that she can take over, but if her husband relocates, it isn't possible for her to run it. All of them look at Mona, who seems to be petrified. She reminds them that she has a job in New York, but they don't want to let go of the tradition. It's been in the family for so long that they don't feel good about breaking the chain. Mona remains quiet, which only makes it worse for her, as she can feel everyone's pressure. After having the conversation with her parents, Mona sits on the front porch trying to gather her thoughts. However, after some time, Des joins her as well. Noticing that she's not feeling her best, he asks what's wrong, and she tells him the truth. He knows how she feels since he had been pressured to join the military as his grandfather and father. However, he claims that he stood his ground, and that the fact he was building his own legacy was respected after all. Hearing those words really helps Mona. It even brings a smile to her face. Just 7 days before Christmas, Erin sets up the house so they can wrap their Christmas gifts, but someone seems to be missing the Christmas spirit. Trying to wake Mona up, she uses the oldest trick in the book and tells her that Flether is texting her. Mona shoots up from the bed like a rocket, but Erin struggles to understand her obsession. She reminds her that he dumped her in high school, but Mona assures her that they've resolved the issue. A familial tune starts playing on the radio, and the sisters recognize it as the song they used to jam out to when they were younger. They start dancing and having fun when Des comes in with the camera pointed at them. Stopping immediately, they ask him not to record them, and as punishment, Mona tells him that he has to wrap Christmas presents with them. He agrees to budget a call that requires him to step out. Mona's jealousy can be sensed, but she denies liking him in any way. They head to the carnival later on, and we see them gathered around the old ornaments. Curious, Des asks about the significance of them, and Mona lets him know that each ornament is made by a person that's from the town. Even Mona's old ornaments sit in that bag, serving as a great memory. A fire truck pulls up to the carnival, and Fletcher can be seen letting the kids know that he has many surprises for him. Not just the kids, but adults also head to where the truck is parked. After doing his deed, he catches up with Mona, and they talk about their great memories at the carnival. Remembering their ornament, he asks whether she has it, and she manages to find it. They laugh as she pulls out the old snowflake, but it also makes them nostalgic. Despite their romance failing, Mona assures him that she wouldn't trade the memories for anything in the world. He agrees, and they have a moment of romance where they try to kiss again, but same as last time, they get interrupted. Surprisingly, Des interrupts them as they're about to kiss because he doesn't want her to make a mistake. Not having a choice, she introduces them before they leave, but they don't seem to like each other. In the evening, Mona is about to leave for her date when Des notices her. Stunned by her beauty, he compliments her, but assures her that she also looks great in her Christmas attire. He enjoys the conversations with her, but always makes sure to sneak in a couple of questions about the interview. As they mention Christmas, he asks what the best Christmas memory she has. Mona lets him know that her grandfather had brought home a tall wishing tree that would grant her 3 wishes if she were to touch it. Des begins laughing, but she assures him that the first wish, which was to win a pageant, came true in a matter of a year. When it comes to the other 2, she can't say that they've come true. Curious, he asks about the other 2 wishes, so she offers to tell him if he promises not to laugh. He promises not to, but once she reveals that her second wish had been to become a model, he can't help but burst out laughing. To prove him wrong, she gets up and strikes a pose, jokingly. He asks about the 3rd wish, when he gets interrupted by a horn. She apologizes and gets ready to leave, but he starts asking her where she's going. Seeing that she's about to leave, he stops her and advises her to wait for him to come to the door, claiming that only real gentlemen would come to the door. Instead of agreeing with him, she tells him that he's too judgmental and that he should work on that. The date ends up going smoothly, and although he doesn't ask her to go to the dance with him, Mona finds out something way worse. He takes her to the fire station, where he plans on decorating the fire truck with her. While decorating it, she lets him know that it might be one of the best dates she's been on, but he finds it hard to believe her. From one topic to another, they get to the topic of family, and it surprises Mona to find out that Fletcher doesn't want kids, he wants adventure. Standing in front of the truck, they light it up, and it sums the perfect moment for them to kiss. However, as the previous 2 times, they get interrupted. This time by the fire alarm. Duty calls, so he apologizes and leaves in a hurry. Although she understands, she can't believe that they just got interrupted for the 3rd time. In the morning, while Aaron and Des record a funny video for their father, we can see Mona promoting a product to her followers. Seeing that she still hasn't left her room, Aaron goes up to Mona's to ask if everything's okay. Mona opens up, once again claiming that she doesn't have luck with men. Being reminded of the wishing tree, she tells her sister that one of her wishes was to get married and have kids by the age of 35. She is 32 now, and it seems to bother her a lot. Being the great sister she is, Aaron cheers her up, gives her a boost of confidence, and even turns her frown upside down. Forgetting about her problem, their mother calls them to help with the quilts. Instead of sawing them on a sewing machine, their mother insists on making them by hand and as traditionally as they can. Mona thinks that she should modernize her techniques, but she lets her know that there's no way. 5 days before Christmas, Mona seems to be warming up to Des. In the morning, Aaron sees him playing with the kids. And despite knowing that she doesn't like him, she asks Mona to take a look at how great he is with the kids. Mona takes her sweet time admiring the man. But what warms her heart is when he comforts the boys after not wanting to do any family traditions because they miss their dad. Thanks to him, we see the whole family at the carnival ordering cones as one of the biggest traditions. Asking them to wait, Mona pulls out her phone to record the carnival and to invite anyone who wants to visit. Not only that, she also involves her family for the first time, which makes for a positive change. 4 days before Christmas, the family gets to setting up the dance hall. Des listens carefully as they tell him about the romantic and funny stories that have happened at the dance. Both her mother and sister have found their soulmates at the dance, so there's much hope for her. However, given her luck, Des asks whether she'll be joining them this time around. Checking her text to Fletcher, she sees that he hasn't responded, so she decides to go by herself. In the evening, we see everyone gathered around the stage as the youngest of the town sing their favorite Christmas carols. One of the older civilians in the town taps Mona on the shoulder. Given that he's doing an interview in their town, she thinks that the lady is of great importance, so she makes sure to tell Des. They engage in a conversation and continue even when the lady walks away. Fletcher begins to feel left out, and feeling bad, he decides to leave entirely. Mona doesn't notice that he's gone and continues her conversation, even complimenting Des on his work. Aaron notices that she's starting to like Des, so she advises her to invite him to the dance. Quite confident, Mona lets her know that Fletcher will be inviting her to the dance, but Aaron reminds him that he has just left her alone. She tries calling him, but he shows up at their house in the evening. Trying to justify himself, he claims to have been left out, as she seemed preoccupied with the conversation. His behavior reminds her of high school, which is why she advises him to say whatever's on his heart. Instead of listening to her advice, he decides to tell her what he wants to do the following morning. Leaving immediately, he gives her no time to respond. Regardless, Mona spends her night with her sister Des and the kids making s'mores, intentionally leaving them alone. Aaron wishes them a good night. They continue making s'mores, and Des decides to apologize to her. He lets her know that he's done some research on her job, and now knows that it's not that easy. She can't believe what he's saying, but she accepts his apology. Feeling the breeze, she shivers a bit, so he puts his coat around her. Immediately. Thanking him for the kind gesture, she also thanks him for opening her eyes and getting her to appreciate her hometown even more. Looking in front of her, she says that it's beautiful, and he assures her that she is. Feeling like things have gotten out of control, she returns his coat as she plans to go to sleep. Wishing him a good night, she heads back to the house. Getting in, she sees that her poor mother had fallen asleep on the chair while making the quilts. Slowly, she wakes her up and tells her that she will finish them. Before letting her mother go to sleep, she asks her how she knew that their father was the one. She smiles softly, letting her know that true love is a life-changing feeling. 3 days before Christmas, Mona takes the quilts to the local boutique where the lady couldn't be happier to receive them. She hopes that the tradition will be passed one day and that Mona will be making the quilts. But little does she know that the ones she's holding are from her. After delivering the quilts, Mona heads back to help with the dance preparations. Des couldn't be more excited to participate, claiming that he never had a proper Christmas since they were traveling too much. The excitement is the same for Mona, despite being surrounded by such Christmas shenanigans each year. Hearing her name being called, she turns around only to see Fletcher. He's finally gathered the courage to ask her to go to the dance with him, and she couldn't be happier. However, as tension begins to rise, Erin makes sure to steal the moment by intentionally falling from the ladder into the blocks of hay. Everyone rushes to help her, but she only thanks Des and even crowns him as the new member of the family. Feeling left out, Fletcher asks who Des is, and she tells him that he's the reporter covering the story of Christmas Carnival. Feeling suspicious, Fletcher advises her to read some of his articles. In the evening, the family enjoys dinner with Des, and they all express their gratitude and excitement for the paper. However, he seems to react oddly when they say that they can't wait to read it. After dinner, he finds Mona chilling in the living room, so he snaps a photo of her looking cozy. Asking to take a peek, he hands her the iPad and goes to answer a phone call. Feeling sneaky, she swipes back to see the other photos of her and her family, but she is met with a complete shock. "Why We Hate Christmas" is written in bold, while the Mona family's picture is on the cover. Swiping to read some of the articles, Mona's heart breaks as she realizes that they've been played. She confronts him immediately, and he explains that his initial assignment had been to talk bad about their hometown, but promises that he has grown to love their town and them as a family. Erin sees it as well, and not to upset her parents, she decides to keep it a secret. Despite his apologies, no one can believe him because they feel betrayed. Angry and disappointed, Mona goes to the dance hall to relax a bit when Fletcher joins her. Sitting next to her, he lets her know that he's been loving their connection, so therefore he asks her to go to the dance with him. No distractions this time. The following morning, Mona wakes up early to go for a walk, but before she goes, she decides to talk with her sister. Telling her all about Fletcher's dance invitation, she doesn't seem as happy, but before she can tell her what's bothering her, the doorbell rings. Erin opens the door only to see her husband, and they couldn't be happier now that everyone is back home. Mona and her mother head to the kitchen to make their traditional breakfast, when the doorbell can be heard once again. Mona goes to answer it only to find a present with her name on it. She takes it inside and her heart melts once she reads that it's from Des. He apologizes for doing what he did and promises not to send the article she initially saw. Their present has an instruction. It says to look at the article, "Why We Love Christmas." Her mother assumes that he left it before leaving, but once Mona hears that he's leaving, she decides to run and find him. Stepping outside, she is met with Fletcher. He hands her a gift, but she can't seem to accept it. Deciding to be honest, she lets him know that they're not compatible and that they want different things in life. She wants to settle down and have kids like her sister, and what he wants is the opposite of that. Understanding what she's trying to say, he respects her decision, and they hug it out as old friends. After a while, Mona finally finds Fletcher. He is surprised to see her, but she congratulates him not only on the article, but also for making her realize how important her town and tradition is. He invites her inside, but she reminds him that she has a dance to go to. Taking the chance, he invites her to the dance, which takes her aback. Nevertheless, she says yes, and they embrace each other in a warm hug. By the evening, we see the hall filled with many people having fun, among them Mona and Des. He seems excited for the dance, and the same can be said about her. They get approached by Mona's parents, who are more than happy to see her with Des. Finally having the conversation about continuing the tradition, her parents assure Mona that she doesn't have to take over as they understand that she's modern. However, Mona cuts them off only to let them know that she's taking over and that it would be an honor to continue the tradition. They jump for joy and decide to hit the dance floor as their song comes on. Next, they see Erin and her husband, who thanks Des for spending time with his kids and teaching them patience. Finally left alone, they decide to join the rest on the dance floor. Standing close to each other, sparks fly, and the love can be felt in the air as they share their first kiss, marking the beginning of many traditional dances shared together.